Unbroken, healing through storytelling.
Hello, my name is Madeleine Black, and you are listening to the podcast show Unbroken, Healing Through Storytelling. Today, my guest is Rayson Choo. He is dubbed as the Celebrity Whisperer. What he does is that he picks the brains of the best entrepreneurs you have in this world, such as Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and many more, to find out from them what some of the simple and effective steps that millennials can take to success in the swiftest and most possible way. He does that through podcasting. The millennials who have listened to the podcast show, which is called the Raygacy Show, have experienced personal transformation because they have got tips they needed to move forward. His mission is to inspire people around the world, creating more impact, legacy, and joy with his unique experience and knowledge that he has on personal mastery, personal branding, and professional networking. He is a well-respected authority in the realm of personal branding and professional networking. He's been featured on numerous media, both locally and internationally. And he lives by the belief that if we all knew how much we've missed out by being uneducated, disconnected, and broke, we'd be working a lot harder towards our goals. The person you will be in a year from now is based on the content you study, who you are mentored by, and the people you surround yourself with. So welcome, Rayson, to the show all the way from Singapore. Lovely to have you here with me. How are you?
Wow, thank you so much. It's really my honor and pleasure to be here on your podcast, and I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yes, good, thank you. We're a little bit colder than you. We have snow here at the moment.
Oh, wow. Okay, I would love to experience snow.
Yeah, maybe one day. So because my show is called Unbroken, the very first question I ask everybody is, what does the word unbroken mean to you?
Wow, this is a really great question. So basically, in my opinion, unbroken means that you are not perfect, and also at the same time, you are not easily broken up by things, by pressure, by people, by stress, and even yourself. So that's why I truly believe that unbroken is such a beautiful word for people like us.
Absolutely. So you are really living your dreams now, and you never gave up on your dreams, but life didn't start that way for you, really, did it? Do you want to go back to when you were a little boy living with your parents and the experience you had with your mum, really?
Sure. So let's now take a time machine. Okay, this time machine, and we're going back to the year 1997. So basically, what happened was this. It was actually a beautiful Monday evening, right? We were all expecting our mom to come back. I was expecting my mom to come back home from dinner, for our dinner from work. And somehow or rather, she she was telling us over the phone, especially to my dad, that hey, I'm coming back. And we were just, you know, going back home after buying her favorite chicken rice from the store. And I was like super excited, and I was, waiting for her to come back. And somehow or rather, that fateful night, she didn't come back at all. And we
So
were all worried in a
yes,
sense.
so she left home when you were just 7 years old, weren't you?
Yeah, I was just 7 years old and she left, and I thought, because my dad was having adultery or because he was inefficient husband, so that's why, or probably I was a bad kid, because I was very mischievous, so I thought that was the thing that caused her to leave. But apparently it wasn't the case. Somehow or rather, it was due to her mental state, her mental capacity, her mental condition at that point of time. And that was all stamped down on this condition called schizophrenia.
Yeah. And as a child, you were quite protected. You weren't really aware of your mum's mental health issues, were you?
No, I wasn't. Only when I had to grow older, then my dad started to share with me. because after she has left us probably about a year or so. And then I noticed that, hey, I got to meet her every weekend, every Sunday after that. And because my dad got into custody of me, I was like, you know, a bit naive. I was still like, do not know what the heck was going on, but I knew something was amiss, but I just didn't know what was exactly happening. Only as I grew older to probably about, I would say, secondary school, and then when I head on to Polytechnic, which was about 18 years old at that point of time, then I slowly got to know more about her condition, because that's when I actually went into this field called nursing, and I got to go to this institution of mental health, which is the place that I'm currently working at, to actually go and have my own, I would say, the that kind of experience that students got to go over there to try out and to have like a 2 weeks of attachment over there.
Yeah,
So
like
we
a
had,
placement.
yeah, it's like a placement.
Yeah,
So
but
when I was there,
you didn't just go to nursing. You decided to become a psychiatric nurse. Is that because of your mother's mental health issues? You decided to do psychiatric nursing?
yes, yes, it was. It's all because of, I would say, wanting to know more about her and wanting to communicate better with her. Even though there will definitely be times where she has a minor relapse or even a major relapse in a sense. But still, I still love her as who she is. Even though sometimes it can be quite annoying for me to know that she doesn't want to take her meds or she doesn't want to go for her regular checkups, but I still respect her as who she is, and that's where I actually got to know more about her through that posting, through that attachment, and through that attachment, I got to figure out a bit more about my mom, and through that, I got to know more of the communication skill sets that I need and the listening skill sets that I need to interact with her.
And what is it like in the culture of Singapore? How do people treat people with mental health issues?
Well, it's not so nice for some people. Some people, they will get ostracized because stigma is still here. Unfortunately, be it in Singapore, I believe in America, or even in your country, in UK or Scotland or any part of the world, stigma is still there. So somehow or other, the people in Singapore, they will not go and literally go and attack them or prank them and all this kind of stuff, but they will definitely shun away from them, especially when they get to see them behaving a little bit awkwardly or a bit weirdly, or even if they look weird in a sense, because some of them, they are born with like autism and all this kind of stuff. They will definitely have some facial features that's definitely somehow different from the rest of us. So probably some of them would just ignore them, or some of them might even behind the back they'll say, hey, just we just saw this, and man, I feel pity for this person, this kind of stuff. That definitely that will be there, but definitely there are still this kind of stigma ongoing in Singapore as well.
Yeah, it sounds like still a lack of understanding, really, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
There's, even though we are doing our best, especially the government, they are actually doing something to promote about mental health and wellness, because after COVID, there are so many people that actually got affected. Not just the poorer people or the middle income, even the high net worth people that were also affected as well. Businesses gone down the hill and everything else. So that's why they are really, really, I would say, cautious about this, and also at the same time showing their care and concern towards family members or even patients that are having this. So they are doing their best to step up the game a little bit by bit, step by step, to actually get people to be involved with this kind of um, removal of this kind of stigma, or reducing this kind of stigma in a sense.
And even though you do have your successful podcast show, you still work as a nurse, don't you?
Oh yes, I do.
Yeah, so it's quite a contrast, the two worlds that you live in, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very, very, very different because on one end, I get to see people who are deeply affected mentally in terms of like the emotion, their mental health, especially even family members who are abusive or even patients themselves that are abusive, and versus people who are way, way successful in their life. Like mentally, they are superbly strong, they are resilient, they are really successful, positive in their own ways and own world of success in their own niche especially. So it's a two different type of worlds that I'm seeing, and it's far apart, like how many people have been taught like the lower income is, and the high income people, their net worth, their differences are superbly huge. Is this huge that no one would really could really understand why this phenomenon happened. And when I actually get to interview all these people and get to speak to the patients or even the family members, I got a better understanding of where success should lead you to and how you should also look at success in a sense.
But you went through a phase where you weren't always this positive, upbeat person, were you? You had quite a series of disappointments, and you were struggling for a bit, really, weren't you?
Oh yes, I was, especially when I was younger, after the divorce from my parents. There were times where I was being bullied, I would say, not just sometimes, but quite a number of times where I was being bullied. And I have to blame my younger self because I wasn't trained in martial arts or jiu-jitsu or anything like that. But I trained myself to be weak in a sense. I trained myself to be vulnerable to the stronger ones, the chubbier ones, and people who are much more taller than me and much more aggressive than me. So I have to blame myself for that. But
Well,
then again,
that's a bit tough, really, because you're not really to
yeah.
blame for someone else's actions. I can understand now you look back and realize you were very vulnerable, but that still doesn't really make
Yes.
it your fault.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I understand that, but of course, somehow or other, I allowed that to happen in a sense, and I wasn't ready to tell people, hey, you got to stop. Only when I grew older, when I was 12 years old, and I grew older, and I mean grew taller, then my bully got to get the shock of his life because he was like thinking to myself, oh my God, since when Rayson grew taller than I am? And then I was like, hey man, and back then World Wrestling Federation was very popular, and my favorite wrestler was Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I really did one move on that bully, and then that stopped the whole bullying.
Okay.
After that, I did a Stone Cold Stunner on him, and he was like, oh shit, man, my God, what the hell did I do? But of course, after this, right, when we go way, way, way forward from from year 2001 all the way 2000 all the way to 2014. Okay, so that's where I actually experienced some setbacks as well.
Yes.
And this setback was something that I didn't really expect. Like, when all of us in Singapore, all Singaporean boys have to go through the army and we become a man after that, in a sense.
It's
And
compulsory, is it, Army? Yeah.
yes, yes, it is compulsory. And I thought with a diploma in nursing, I could go anywhere I want, do whatever I want in terms of nursing. But somehow or rather, that ego of mine, that naivety of mine, cost me this opportunity, I would say. It just cost me this opportunity of working in the Japanese clinic. But because of my ego, my naivety, my low self-esteem in a sense, it taught me huge lesson, which I learned a lot in that phase, whereby I lost my job in a sense within a few months. And that was something that I could never believe that it happened back then when I was like, over there for a few months, and I thought I'm gonna be there for a year, two or so, but somehow or other, I couldn't focus at work. I have made some silly mistakes, which wasn't fatal, no worries, and and it just happened to be like Murphy's laws that was acting on me in a sense, because right after I lost this job, in a sense, had this toxic relationship with my ex-girlfriend, and then we broke up. And then
Did you know it was toxic at the time, or it was just looking back now you see it was toxic?
um I somehow knew it was toxic, but I just wanted to carry on because I thought, I had feelings for this girl, and I thought this girl had feelings for me. But the toxic relationship was more or less like, we always had quarrels in a sense, mini quarrels, or she will always uh, want attention from me, where to the extent where she wants me to listen to her, to what she has to say in terms of about my mistake and all this other stuff. And it was so toxic that sometimes I had to listen to her talk and grumble from 9 p.m. all the way until 2 3 a.m. in the morning. And it's superbly toxic at that point of time. But of course, as I look back, I realized, man, how foolish I was to actually continue this relationship and to allow that relationship to affect my work and to affect my whole well-being in a sense. So that's where I actually realized that, man, this is not the way. So we had to cut it off. So that's where I decided to, we got to break it up.
Okay.
So we
So you
broke up.
lost your job and you finished with your girlfriend, and
Yep.
then I believe you took to YouTube and you started watching your heroes on YouTube videos to see
Oh
how
yes.
they turn their life around because you realized you had to do something different.
Yes, yes, yes. That was a pivoting point of my life where it changed full circle after that. So what happened was this: right after I was fired and all, it took me a while to actually self-reflect and also to work on myself. So that's where I started to go hit the gym and started to watch YouTube videos and even listen to podcasts. So I chanced upon this podcast called Addicted to Success by Joel Brown, and that was phenomenal. That was the first time ever that I actually listened to someone that interviewed some of their idols. Some of their guests are actually world class. People like Tony Robbins, people like Gary Vee, for example, and so many of these amazing peeps. And I was thinking to myself, man, if this guy can do it, what about me?
So where did
Let
this confidence come from? Because you're feeling pretty broken at that point, and all of a sudden
mm,
now you're dreaming really big.
yes, yes, that happened right after the, like, I would say, 2 months or so after the breakup and the loss of job. So I lost my job and break up at about March 2014. So that's where I started to tell myself, hey, you know what? In the next 3 to 5 years, I'm gonna be way more successful than who I was at that point of time. So I decided to hustle by watching YouTube videos first, and also reading some personal development books as well. So that's where I chanced upon Joe Brown's podcast, and then after that I chanced upon Louis House as well, and then I chanced upon Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, which I've been following a bit here and there in the past. But then when I met when I met this issue, this problem, I decided to go all in to actually watch and learn and really cultivate that habit of practicing whatever that was being preached by these people. And that's where I decided to, go all out and give it a shot, because I was young. So I thought, hey, if I can do it when I was younger, it will be even better, right? Because they always say that it's best if you can start younger, start earlier. So I decided to go and dive deep in. And that's where I chanced upon all these things. And man, within the next 3 months or so, so probably about June period, I got I got opportunities to actually go to secondary schools to speak. as a motivational speaker
Yeah.
slash
Yeah, I
facilitator.
believe you met your friend that you hadn't seen for a long time, and he was working as a motivational speaker, and you thought, I could do that as well.
Yeah, that was the time when I happened to watch this I would say this advertisement in the cinema while we were waiting for Avengers, the very first Avenger movie, and I was like thinking to myself, man, what is this advertisement, man? I'm like looking at this advertisement, and this advertisement was on this big screen and it was showing about teaching, coaching kind of stuff, and I was thinking to myself, hey, it was that aha moment for me. It's like, hey, this is what I want. This is what I really, really want to do in a sense, because I realized that I could really motivate people in a sense when I was in the nursing course, when my patient was actually going through some surgeries and they're going for the operation already, and I'll be motivating them, hey, don't don't be afraid, no fear, just do it, impossible is nothing, all those brand kind of slogans, and I just share it out, and then those people were like, wow, I feel so pumped up. And then when I saw them smiling, I was like, wow, i I think I could do something about this. And that's where that advertisement actually allowed me to think further ahead. And that's where, after that movie, I went back home. I turned on my laptop, went into Facebook, and that's where I got to see my ex-secondary schoolmate, who used to be a punk, a bad boy in school, giving talks in a sense. It's just a picture, right? And he was like standing in front of the whiteboard with some words on it, some motivational words on it, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, hey, wasn't that what I was thinking of? What really gave me that aha moment in the movies, in the theaters, probably about 2 hours or so ago. And then I was like, hey, this seems like the laws of attraction, man. I need to go and talk to this person. I need to say hello to this person. And then next moment, we reconnected again. And man, that was the time where he actually shared with me his mentor and how I can connect with him. And he eventually asked another friend of his to connect me to this mentor. And then that's where we started to go to schools to speak. And to be honest, for the first time, I had to go into the school and sit down in the class and watch them do the works, all the activities, the icebreakers, the stories, and all this other stuff. And I was just watching and watching and watching and watching, and I was like telling to myself, man, I need to improve on myself. And that's where I started to watch TED Talks, and I model from Julian Treasure, who is a very great TED speaker, and so many other people. So I decided to actually go and learn and watch and model from not just this mentor of mine, plus my circle of friends that were actually going to schools to speak with this mentor as well. And I watch TED Talks and all the other, motivational speakers, how they talk, how they do their stuff. And man, that's where I started to practice whatever that I've been learning. And that's where I started to hone the craft of public speaking a little bit. And man, that was the time when I had the time of my life in a sense. And then after that, I realized that I want to learn more about my mom. I want to speak to her even more. And also at the same time, I want to have a more stable pay for myself, because doing that was freelance. And meaning to say that I don't earn like thousands of dollars per month. I only earn like hundreds. And I had to do a side job, which was like agency nurse, where I had to go to another hospital to push people around. When there's no speaking gigs, I had to go to hospitals to push patients to from point A to point B, check their blood pressure and things like that. And I was earning peanuts as well. So I told myself, hey, why not just give it a shot? I mean, like, there's this opportunity to go into this hospital to work. Why not just give it a try? And at first, my dad wasn't willing for me to actually go there. Why? Because I had to go through shift work. And at that point of time in 2014, shift work in this hospital was actually 6 days work. It's not a 5 days work week like now, but it was 6 days work week, and it was quite tiring at the point of time. So he was telling me, hey, just get the 9 to 5 job as a nurse. But I told myself, nah, let me just give this a shot. And that's where I decided to join this organization, and I'm really really grateful for this organization. No matter what has gone through over the years in this organization, I'm really grateful for it because I was given a lot of opportunities, like literally a lot of opportunities. Within 4 months of being hired, I was actually featured on a local newspaper, one of the biggest local newspaper in
Which
Singapore.
organisation is it that you're talking about that you joined? I didn't hear which organisation it
Oh,
was.
it was called as the Institute of Mental Health.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, which is
Yes,
the
I read the
Singapore's equivalent.
article. I've seen it online about how you became a psychiatric nurse. It's interesting. It's a great article. So, from listening to all your gurus online and doing this massive personal development journey, you decided to start your own podcast show. And
Mhm.
again, the synchronicity of life or the law of attraction brings to you these great names. Tell us a little bit about how that started, because you have interviewed, as we said in the bio at the start, Gary Vee and Grant Cardone and many, many other huge names, not just huge names, but also your idols.
Mhm. So this podcast actually started in 2017. It just started as something that I wanted to do as a hobby in terms of like I wanted to just interview authors and recommend their books. And that first episode where I actually interviewed one of the Southeast Asia's most prominent speaker and personal branding expert. He actually came onto the show, and then after a while, I realized that man, this show can be done even better because I don't want to just interview authors and recommend books already because I realized as I scroll through my own Facebook profile, I realized that man, I have so many entrepreneurs in my profile itself. So I thought of like, why not just go and interview all these entrepreneurs about their life, about their niche especially. So that's where I started to interview more and more people. And as I asked more people, because my platform was actually just using Facebook Live at that point of time, um, they were pretty intrigued by this idea of being interviewed. And to be honest, a lot of people love to be interviewed no matter what. No matter what. I mean, like you, me, everyone loves to be interviewed in a sense because we are seen as the idol, we are seen as the expert. So that's where I actually decided, hey, why not take this opportunity to go and interview all these amazing peeps? And that's where I started my journey of Facebook Lives. And as the journey went on and on and on, somehow or other, there's this guy by the name of Nicholas. He is actually from this so-called Gary Vee's kind of like a fan base kind of group. So it's called Vayner Nation Squad. So he has been following my content in a sense for quite some time, and he has been watching how I interview people and all. And he realized that hey, there's this opportunity that he has where he actually got to plan out together with another lady, who was planning out the whole day for Gary Vee, for example, right? So this guy was actually, curious whether would I be interested to meet him in 2018 in his hotel lobby. So I was thinking to myself, man, I met Gary Vee a year ago, which was 2017 at Brand's Mind Asia. So I thought like, hey, I saw people asking him for opportunities like podcasts or even being his chauffeur to drive him around. And of course, he rejected that idea. But I thought to myself, hey, what if, I could actually ask him to actually appear on my podcast? And that's where Nicholas, gave me this opportunity via Facebook Messenger. He just messaged me and, hey, I've been following your stuff, and I want to let you know that I have this opportunity for you, and that is to actually go and meet Gary at his hotel lobby, and you're going to have a business meeting with a group of people. And I didn't expect this group of people to be business owners, influencers, and some even like celebrity in Singapore in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought to myself, hey, why not? And that's where people started to get curious again, because that's where I started to do my promo for this interview, whereby I told people that, hey, I'm going to this person's hotel lobby, and I'm gonna do all this. I'm gonna do an interview, a Facebook Live, so stay tuned, kind of stuff. So I'm grateful that this was actually an idea that was suggested by another friend of mine, and he wanted me to succeed in a sense. So he shared with me this, hey, okay, so what you're gonna do, A, B, C, D, E kind of stuff, and I literally went through it. And when I went there, during that business meeting, he was asking every one of us, how are you? How's everything going? And all this kind of stuff. And we started to share. And to the end of my sharing, I actually decided to let it go and ask him this question. And this question was, Gary, would you mind if you appear on my podcast? I would like to interview you for my podcast. And he was like, sure. And I was like, oh my God.
I bet you couldn't believe it, how all those years ago watching him, and now you got the opportunity to interview him.
Yeah, and even though I was promised 15 minutes, but apparently it was cut short to 5 minutes because he was actually busy with one of the influencer, and she was asking a lot of questions and all. So I told myself, man, it's okay. That 5 minutes will be gold, will be great. And lo and behold, we did a Facebook Live. There were thousands of people watching it. Even though it's on my own profile, it's not on my Facebook page, in a sense, the business page or whatsoever. It was amazing. And at that point of time, I was thankful that there were a few of my friends that actually came over and they wanted to meet Gary. And of course, I had the opportunity, and I didn't know they were following me at the back, because I was like so starstruck, like thinking to myself, man, wow, what question am I going to ask him? And
yeah, no pressure, huh?
Yeah, no pressure, of course. And of course, then they were all following me, and next moment I saw them and I was like, oh shit, they were telling me I can't let anyone know about this, and yet you are here. And then I had to think out of the box and tell myself, okay, you know what? Since you guys are here, you want to meet, you gonna be my camera crew.
Okay, so you roped them all in. So you've now gone on to interview many, many, many people, loads of your heroes,
yes.
famous people. Do you have a favorite one, or could you not say that?
Oh yeah, I would love to say that. There are two.
Okay.
And they were the ones that were actually in the bio itself, which was Gary and Grant.
Okay.
So why would I say Gary and Grant? Is very simple, because not just because they are my so-called idols in the sense, but because of the advices, the tips that they have actually shared, the value bombs that they have actually shared during the show.
I like that word, value bombs.
Yes. Those value bombs that they have actually shared with me, man, it really inspired me to actually take action. And of course, during that period of time, I was really hustling and all, and I was like following their footsteps. Definitely, there are vast differences. One loves the simplicity, not wearing branded stuff and all this kind of stuff, while the other one loves the luxury and all. So I'm parked in between.
Okay.
In a sense. So I told myself, man, I love certain things. I definitely love certain people, love certain things, certain values, and all this kind of stuff. And of course, Gary loves the other stuff, in a sense, like garage sales and all this other stuff, whereas Grant loved cars, watches, which somehow I do follow that path in a sense in terms of the luxury items. But of course, Gary actually did tell me that if I want to make a huge jump, don't buy dumb stuff in a sense. So I told myself, man, I'm going to save as much as possible, and I'm going to work as hard as possible, and I'm going to see how I can invest in myself, not in terms of physically, but in terms of
your personal development.
Personal development.
Yes,
So
that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you just before we kind of finish up here. So out of all the people that you've interviewed, you're very good. You're able to take what you need for you. What advice would you give for someone that's struggling like you were, and you never gave up on your dreams? You've always dreamed big. What advice would you give to someone that really wants to develop a better sense of themselves?
Well, my answer will be very simple, and that is to find your why. And not just to find your why, but just to find out what you really like. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What you can improve on? What you can work on? And also double down on your strengths as well. Because when you are able to know your why, when you know your strengths, when you know your weaknesses, when you can actually marry your passion and income, and also at the same time allow yourself to grow from this, man, you are going to really rock your own career in whatever that you're going to do. And why would I say this is because when I was down and out, I have no idea what the heck I was doing and what I want to do as well. Only when I met a downfall, which I wouldn't want people to go through this kind of downfall, multiple downfalls and one shot, which will drive you nuts. I would rather you take this piece of advice and go and figure out what you really want to do in life and what you really want to accomplish in probably your first year or your 6 months, first year, second year, third year, and grow incrementally.
Yeah. I think that's a really lovely place to end for people to go and think about what is their why. So it just leaves me to thank you, Rayson, so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking time out all the way from Singapore. And I think I know what the noise is. I think it's the traffic going past your window. That's what I can hear.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. Thank you so much for coming on.
Playing now on all the main platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher for Android, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and here. Play Unbroken, the podcast, with Madeline Black.